The committee is called back to order. Colleagues, there has been a distribution on your desk of a couple of new documents to do some further clarification on the numbers. Lester, can you go ahead and just introduce that so as the senators get called upon, if they have any questions on what you've distributed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we go to this one first? So the Speaker asked how we came up with the odd number of 13,361,849 for the BAVI response and recovery efforts. So up on the top, the 88 million is our back of the napkin estimated excess collections that I talked about during the budget. So that was back of the napkin. And then we netted out the 20 million for GMH, 5 million for DOC, and 890,000 for the legislature. That brings us to 25,890. So our 88 million goes down to 62,639,319. The next number of 3.8 million, that's the June special fund shortfall, not the July, but the June. Again, this was back of the napkin. And it does not include the property tax shortfall, which we do believe will be self-correcting. So that leaves a balance after the special fund shortfall of 58,793,599. We netted out the 17 million for the airport, 11.4 for the child care. At the time, we weren't sure if Simon Sanchez was going to get funded in the budget bill. So we actually netted that out. And as you can see, that's how we arrived at 13,361,849. Now, if I could walk you through the legal size sheet. This is a compilation to date with expenses we expect to still see come in for recovery efforts. But you've got the overtime submitted to us for Guam EPA, for Public Works, Behavioral Health, Agriculture, which includes the $2 million for crop loss, Department of Parks and Recreation, and the Guam Police Department. So we're at $3 million. 1.5, please add for Homeland Security's $1.5 million of overtime incurred. And I would like for you to consider a $5 million green waste disposal appropriation. We did $10 million for Sinlaku. I think Vince, you okay with 5 for green waste disposal for BAVI? Okay. So we're closer to 10 now. Well, 3 plus 1.5 plus 5, we're closer to 10.
Senator Barnett.
Oh, sorry. Oh, good. I think the additional personnel costs are going to be trickling in. I don't think it's going to be coming in to the degree that you're seeing here. We're pretty much done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to the panel and to the people of Guam watching on our new and improved YouTube stream. That was a very interesting first round, and I just have to say we sure could have used this panel when we were deliberating the budget bill for all the agencies, but here we are. So it's clear to me that there wasn't a lot of game planning between the panel, because we have this bill from the governor that's asking for $13 million in a BAVI response. And now we're hearing that that number was arrived at not based on need, but just based on what was left in a balance. And so now Mr. Carlson has said we have this one sheet which shows $3 million is needed, and he says add in the 1.2, and then another 5 here, 5 there, and that kind of seems how we're coming up with this $13 million. So I guess, Director Arriola, could I start with you on the green waste? You said it ends today?
Yes, sir.
So this $5 million that Lester is saying you need, what would that go towards?
It would be clearing and reprocessing all the green waste that we've collected at Oka, at Tizan, and throughout the island at various mayor's offices. And we also collected construction debris. Those were the only two we collected this go around after BAVI. So that's what we're estimating to process, hire a private company, pick it up, process it, and use it for mulch or for soil or whatever the case may be. But the issue would be to clean up, separate from Sinlaku, clean up whatever BAVI has generated, whatever we've generated from BAVI in terms of green waste and construction debris.
So what will happen if the body doesn't approve this funding or $5 million for green waste disposal?
We're going to have to dispose of it somehow. So we're going to have to, we'll look for the funding. I don't know if the funding for Sinlaku is enough, which we have 10 mil. I don't know if that's going to be enough. So we'll probably have to cross that bridge when we get there. But what we're saying today is we're going to need funding to clear the green waste and the construction debris that we've collected from BAVI, which even as we speak, when we close today, we imagine on the government side, we're still out there cleaning highways and roads and collecting from the mayors.
I guess I should have started with this, but I want to thank your hardworking employees at Public Works, you know, from the bus drivers to the laborers. I mean, it's very clear DPW staff has been kind of taking on these extra duties outside of what they normally do on a day-to-day, and so I definitely appreciate that hard work. You know, seeing the DPW guys out there on the sidewalk with the shovel, it just reminds me of back in the day when DPW actually had its own manpower to respond to these disasters, and now, you know, just for a variety of factors, we just contract everything out, right? So thank you for that. And then, you know, I wanted to ask, because you had mentioned the retaining wall.
The seawall?
Yeah, so the seawall, that was originally what you were saying we could use the $13 million for. So you had talked extensively about repairing the seawall in Hagatnya down Marine Corps Drive. Senator Gumatata brought up Baleso, the Barcinas area, but I would also like to draw your attention more down towards the pier, from the Castro residence on down towards the pier. They're about a storm away from having these waves come on into the house. So I wanted to ask, just on the record, if you could describe the process for, you know, building a wall there to protect our southern residents, and the timeline, because, you know, if this was something we'd use the $13 million for, I'm not sure it applies, but that's something I absolutely support, because I've been receiving a lot of concerns from our southern residents about this.
So, Senator, I'm not aware of that specific resident in Mauricio. I'm aware we are working on one in Yamatic, which is right by the Yamatic Bay, but not Maleso. I'm not aware of that specific one, but we are working one in Yamatic. We're working one in Agat. And we basically hear about these from the mayors. They'll come to us, we'll go out and we'll do an assessment, and most of the time we'll go there and strengthen them with large boulders, and we'll place it up as riprap. And we just did one in a landslide in Santa Rita. When I say we, this one was specifically contracted out.
I'm sure Mayor Trimpaco will share with you. So this is if you're coming from Inalahan and you pass the Maleso San Dimas Church, okay. Obviously on the beach side, that area from the Hart Monument on down towards the Alferos Beach area. I mean, it's very easy to see that the water's pretty much right onto these people's backyards. So I just wanted to raise that on the concern. So again, what would be the process for that?
We'll call the mayor. We'll send out our engineers to go do an assessment. The problem with that also is if it touches the water, then obviously we get Army Corps involved because we can't touch the water unless we have them involved in doing the assessment and guiding us on how to proceed.
Yeah, I'm very sure it touches the water. So then what would be the process when you engage with the Army Corps of Engineers?
Well, we'll put together some design. In consultation with them, we'll figure out what we believe and they believe is the best way to mitigate it. Most of the time, there's going to be a short-term fix, and that's typically just taking boulders and making riprap. And a long-term would be perhaps pilings, perhaps flowable fill, perhaps something more permanent, such as concrete pour in place.
Can you just, for the viewing public, tell us what is required to take this from discussing to action for our southern residents?
Well, like I said, we'll work with the mayor. We'll get the Army Corps engaged. Typically, we have meetings. We put together a work order. We'll have meetings with EPA, Army Corps, probably agriculture. I think those are the top three, and of course the residents there. And we basically let the engineers handle it because that's their field of expertise. Engineers in environment, engineers in land, engineers in civil work, and so on and so forth. Then they'll put a design together for, like I said, typically it's a short-term fix because we don't want to wait for a long-term fix that could take 3 years. We want to get some form of mitigation as soon as we can. That's kind of like what I was talking about with the seawall in East Agana. We want to get the rocks in as soon as we can, and we want to pour flowable fill in there just to hold it in place. So that's similarly, that's what we would do to the residents down there.
So then we can take it that we have a commitment from the administration to move forward with looking at the short and long-term solutions?
Correct. And then, of course, once we get the assessments down, it comes down to the almighty dollar, right? How much is it going to cost? Sometimes we're able to do it in-house, depending how large the project. Sometimes if it's a little bit larger, then we're going to, we go to the governor, we go to my good friends over at BBMR, and we say, hey, we've got this project that's going to take a little bit more. If it's really out of the sphere or out of the scope, then we try to look for federal funds. But if we've got the local funding, then we try to do that as well.
The budget bill that was passed is, I presume, at the governor's desk by now, but it contains a provision that requires government of Guam agencies employees to exhaust any annual leave in excess of 320 hours by September of next year. So I know we had you in a public hearing on that measure, but what types of challenges does that pose to the Department of Public Works in terms of BAVI recovery or preparation for future storms that may arrive in the next calendar year?
Yeah, well, as all agencies are going to have to do, we're going to be, we now know what the deadline is, so we're forced to sit down and we have to have those employees and those individuals take their leave. They need to exhaust it because we're not going to wait and believe that there's a pool of money at the end of the term, right? So we have to have them take their leave. We have to schedule it around present work days. And assuming, knock on wood, we don't get any more disasters, because that would really throw a wrench into this. But yeah, we have to sit down, we have to plan it, we have to schedule it, and make sure that they do take the appropriate leave.
That's why I supported increasing the cap, because it would have provided more flexibility to the employees and the agencies. So just again on the record, if you could expand a little bit more about the challenges that the department's going to face in meeting this mandate, which it looks like is going to be on the books.
It's going to be challenging because it's not like we've had a full complement of employees. 15, 20 years ago, there was 1,100 employees at DPW. Today, there are less than 270. So a lot of them with high annual leave hours are bus drivers. A lot of them are engineers. A lot of them are highway maintenance workers, and these are the individuals who are out in the field. So that's going to be a struggle for us. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but be that as it may, right? They do have hours that they are going to be owed, and a lot of them are way over the 320. We did a listing. I know we turned it in to this legislature. I just don't remember how many are over that 320. But we're going to sit down. We have to find a way to make it work. Our backs are to the wall. We have to find a way to make it work.
Thank you, Director. Guam Department of Education Superintendent Wampat, Mr. Leon-Guerrero, thank you for being here today. I wanted to ask, because I'd received concerns from employees relative to the July 11th pay period, and these employees were tasked to perform a shelter duty, but they've shared with our office that they didn't receive typhoon pay for this, and I've heard a little bit about this. So are you able to just maybe clarify on the record why they aren't entitled to this pay? Because it's my understanding they believe that they are, because they were performing the typhoon-related duties.
So, yes, Senator, I would like to clarify that there's all kinds of discussions going on this topic. The fact of the matter is GDOE follows all the laws, pay laws as well. And so the shelter employees at the schools, for when it's in typhoon condition, when the shelter's open, that's when the overtime starts. And no doubt about it, premium overtime pay. What this whole discussion is about now is that we went into typhoon condition 4 was called, but tier 2 shelters at the mayor's level were not ready at the time. So we had to maintain our tier 1 schools past when Core 4 was called. Normally when Core 4 is called, shelteries go to tier 2, which is the mayor's office. This didn't happen in this case because the mayors weren't ready. So we had to extend the schools, but we cannot pay premium time for Core 4. So Core 4, when Core 4 called, we will pay overtime as the overtime laws require. So the calculations changed from Core 1 to Core 4. So what is being asked of me is to pay as if Core 1 was still in effect and pay all these people at the premium pay. I cannot do that because Core 4 was called. So we now have to follow the rules, regulations, and policies and the law for payment at Core 4. So they are going to get paid. They will be paid for all their overtime hours in accordance with the regulations and the calculations. Now, if somebody wants to be paid at the premium pay, but the law doesn't allow it, that's a different discussion. But we're following the law.
Well,
Thank you,
Mr. Leon-Guerrero, for that answer. But I think these employees are under the impression, and I might agree, because when you look at the state of emergency and the 90 days, I mean, even if it is condition 4, they're still performing shelter-related duties, which are associated with the super typhoon, BAVI, or, previously in Sinlaku. So you're just saying on the record that even though these employees are performing duties at a school site that is a shelter and was open during condition 4, that they're not going to get the typhoon pay? Because I'm pretty sure my colleagues in here, we appropriated money to each of these school shelter sites with the mentality that it would go towards, paying the hardworking GDOE employees what they were supposed to be paid, when they were supposed to be paid.
So the first thing my payroll supervisor did was look at the laws, the executive orders, all of the regulations and requirements. There was no statement in the executive order to say continue to pay typhoon pay when it's Core 4. Had that executive order said that, then we would be empowered to pay that, but it didn't say that. So once we went out of Core 1 to Core 4, the rules of engagement for payroll changed at that moment. Now also, let's just be realistic here. This changed during a work day. So they're going to get paid, right? They're coming to work. So now you want to, some of them are saying, well, we should continue to be paid premium overtime pay for typhoon when it was actually a regular GovGuam work day, right? So they will get paid. They will get paid appropriately. When the rules change from Core 1 to Core 4, we will follow the overtime calculations for Core 4. And that's what we're doing, and some people are not happy with that. They had a different expectation, but until the law changes or the executive order changes, we're following the law. Thank you.
And I think part of why they have a different expectation is when I spoke with some of the employees, they had told me that under the previous leadership of the Guam Department of Education, they were paid the typhoon pay when they worked at the shelter. So that's why when I spoke with these employees, when I visited the shelter in Machinauno, that's why they were a little shocked and disappointed that they had received word from their front office that they wouldn't be making the premium overtime typhoon pay or what have you. So are you able to state on the record if the previous administration handled it differently, and maybe that's why there's an expectation from the employees?
You know, honestly, I can't tell you what the previous administration did. I can tell you that we did communicate that we would be following the rules and regulations of the payroll once Core 4 was hit. And if they had an expectation otherwise, it didn't come from us, the current leadership. They may have had an opinion from prior, but we can't really speak for prior. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think regardless of what you're saying, the expectation from these employees is they're putting in the work at the shelters, performing duties outside their normal responsibilities. And I think no matter what's said, regardless, that expectation is pretty reasonable. You know, if you're working in a typhoon shelter, you probably should get the typhoon pay. So, and they did confirm that the previous leadership at GDOE did grant that pay, and maybe that's something that we need to work on with the language and our emergency declarations here. But just moving on, so Superintendent Wampat, you had talked about hardening some of these shelters. So when I visited Machinauno Elementary School, which was a shelter for the north, some of the shelterees there shared with me that the cafeteria actually flooded in the middle of the night, and so everybody kind of had to get their brooms and maintain the area. So I'm pretty sure this is an example of a school site that you want to harden. Are you able to share specifically others and any related costs, and if you require additional funding, or if you're able to work that through any of the previous appropriations we've given?
Yes, and thank you for that question, because that's exactly some of the things that I've asked facilities and maintenance when we were looking at the different type of equipment that we wanted to purchase and have a purchase, and it was always based, like I said earlier, on previous experiences, what has happened in Mawar, Sinlaku. We've learned those, and then now we're taking all these steps to address them in the future. So in this particular case, and it wasn't just Machinauno, we had learned from the other typhoon that even Southern High School, that there's this, and I'm sure you saw that waterfall, so to speak, that just came down. And so one of the things that was recommended by facilities and maintenance is to be able to, and you got to help me with this, the term here, I think it's the compact track locator.
Loader.
A loader, I'm sorry. You can tell that's not my field. And so what that is that to be able then to redirect any flooding that's occurring in any one of our shelters. We also learned that although we didn't open FB Leon Guerrero Middle School, it is listed as a shelter school. There was flooding there as well. And that's the kind of equipment that, we're putting in a request to be able to purchase so that we can continue to harden our schools for the next storm. So
thank you, Superintendent. You mentioned FB Leon Guerrero, so I guess I have to ask, did it receive typhoon damage, and is that going to affect the proposed opening date and the return to the GUHNS campus for the students of the FB Leon Guerrero Hawks?
Our understanding is that the school actually fared very well, and even right after that, because what the department decided to do was to work with DEH to go in and only inspect certain wings at a time, because it's going to be a zero demerit for us, meaning, of course, that we just can't have a single demerit. And both wings had actually passed. The only thing right now that the contractor is doing, and we were waiting for the delivery from the port, which we found that the other day they were released, are the doors now for all of the classrooms. So the only damage that they were able to identify was the flooding in the parking lot.
I would just like to follow up on that. Our staff was assisting Simon Sanchez with moving in over at TYPHOON High School. So just the same question. I know that they're proposed to start campus sharing with TYPHOON High at the beginning of the upcoming school year. Has that timeline been impacted at all?
No, so far we're staying on track because we've made those schools the top priority. And it's not just F&M, but we're finding that other faculty and staff from the other schools, and we even saw them this morning, loading and delivering, furniture and other supplies and materials. So we're still staying on track with that. I can't maybe say that about other schools where we're finding out they still don't have water, some have power, some are fluctuating. So we're
so let me just ask
on a
then,
weekly basis.
all of the schools, are we still on target across the district to open on August 10? No?
Well, we're definitely pushing to stick to that date on August 10th, yes.
But do you have contingency plans prepared in the event that some schools aren't ready?
Well, always, the principals know that there should be, a plan B. And the same goes as well for FP Leon Guerrero, because my understanding is that they weren't able to get the permits that they need for the 20 classrooms. And hence, you saw and experienced here in the legislature amendment that was proffered so that we'll be able to, have GHC actually allow for schools to be there. So that was the holdup.
Thank you, Superintendent. So just one last thing for the record, because I missed it in the initial round. What additional funding are you seeking for your BAVI response? Was it $66,000?
Well, thank you. Yes, you're right. We started out with 66, and what we found out later on is that then there were reports coming into the deputy, and he'll explain.
So, it's a kind of a work in progress. 99.9% is in, so 66,000 we asked for originally, but there was a couple invoices that slipped in late, so I just want to mention it. We bought a 500-gallon diesel tank, and we mentioned it earlier, in a trailer, so that when contractors like Morrick or whoever were contracting to refuel the shelters during the storm, they refused to go because the wind is blowing. But DOE has to be there and fill them. So that 500-gallon diesel tank and trailer was $38,000. So we bought that. I didn't add it to the 66. And the last thing I was remiss in saying was we needed to provide communication devices, internet, Google and stuff for all the shelterees to be able to contact their loved ones and things. When the power starts going down, everything isn't, and we also have to, in the schools, we had to bring the IT systems, the switches, the internet equipment down, because some of our equipment is aged and we can't get repair parts. So we cannot risk the power fluctuations and things like that to damage those equipment. So we take the system down safely. So we purchased from Docomo BEC communication devices and MiFi devices so that these shelters could communicate. That cost $12,000. So adding the diesel tank and trailer and the communication devices from $66,000, it's $116,000.
Are you able to cover these expenditures of $116,000 with any of the lapsed funding that was quote unquote unlocked by the body?
No, the monies that we are using and will continue to use was the ones that was appropriated for Typhoon BAVI, and that was $1,250,000. And we have to break down. I think we've given you some, but it's not all complete. But we would have that report for you as well with the details.
So we don't necessarily need to cut you a check for 100-something thousand.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And hopefully the 750,000, the balance of the 1.25, will then definitely be transmitted to the Department of Education.
Superintendent Wampat. Wow, the time. So I did have some questions for Mr. Byrne and Mr. Carlson, but I think I might wait till the second round. Acting Chief Carbolito. Buenas.
Buenas, Senator.
Buenas. So are you able to share a little bit more about your letter that you provided to the body? And then also I spoke with you in the recess, and I understand there's been a change with some of the information.
Yes, the total that was provided on the letter was 900,000. So for the record, I want to correct it that the total is actually 529,274.14.
What happened?
Typo, sir.
So yeah, the new amount GPD ask is $529,274 then, Acting Chief?
529,000, yes.
So if you don't get this $529,000, how then would you pay for these expenses that you listed here? Because I know that unfortunately you were given a status quo budget.
I would have to get with DOA and BBMR to figure that out. This is an emergency declaration, so I'm sure we could figure it out.
Acting Chief Carbolito. Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to ask questions in this round.
You're welcome, Senator. Keep in mind, colleagues, we're talking about current year appropriations, fiscal year 26. Thank you. Senator Chulai, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can I just clarify with the mayors, please? So what would be your ask today, if you could clarify? Do you need an extension of the 30 days time limit for Sinlaku to use the rest of the 1.8 million that you still had from there? Or do you need that to be transferred to use for BAVI instead?
Yes, for the Sinlaku funds, we would need an extension to use that money unless, well, yeah, that's what our executive director will need in order for her to certify those funds. So if we could get that 1.8 reappropriated to us, unless it's still there. I mean, I'm under the impression that that 1.8 is no longer there because that's how this bill came about. But whatever it is, if that 1.8 can be reappropriated to us and we can divide it among our 19, we could certainly use that by September 30th. For the BAVI issue, we just need access to the money that was given to us, that was taken away.
All right, and you mean that disbursement, right? You want it back to central MCOG so that you can do the procurement according to law.
Correct.
Mr. Byrne, what is the difference between procuring from non-appropriated funds versus appropriated funds? Is there any?
Guam law covers all procurements in all agencies.
So they all have to follow the procurement law?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I was looking at the language in the Sinlaku law and the BAVI law, and they both say, shall be disbursed to the mayors. So they're exactly the same to me.
Not in every case, but in this case, yes.
Right. So you said that you dispersed it instead of to the mayor's council to the individual mayor's non-appropriated accounts because the language was different in the two bills, but I can't find that different language. Looks the same. It says shall be dispersed to the mayors.
Well, okay. I've only got the BAVI law here, but it says shall disperse $250,000 to each mayor's office.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have the other one here, and it says, Sinlaku says, shall disperse $250,000 from the funds appropriate herein to each mayor. Right?
Okay.
All right. Have those been spent? They said they were just transferred this week or Friday. Have those been spent?
That report, the expenditure report, is supposed to come afterwards.
So you don't know?
I don't know.
There's no one can track. All right. Was there any other entity where you dispersed it to them like that?
DOE.
DOE? What about the Fishermen's Co-op?
From these funds? No.
All right. Did you give out any, what is that term? The one that we're going to use for Department of Ag farmers is going to be covered under what? What's the category?
You mean the crop loss?
Crop loss?
Yes.
Not personal, individual assistance?
No, individual, maybe Homeland can talk about this, but I don't believe individual assistance has been authorized by FEMA.
Okay. But it's authorized by the laws. So
Yes.
have you been dispersing any of it?
Crop loss, yes.
No, individual assistance?
No.
Okay, for BAVI, no. What about Sinlaku?
No.
Okay. The mayors, what they're spending right now with the money that's been given to them, they make it sound like they haven't yet applied for FEMA. Are those going to be reimbursed by FEMA for Sinlaku?
Test. Senator, thanks for that question. Yes, ma'am, as long as an application is submitted along with documentation, then they qualify to be reimbursed.
All right, and what about BAVI?
Yes, ma'am, we just started that process yesterday.
All right, so that is a go for BAVI that we...
Not yet, ma'am. We just started the orientation for a post-damage assessment yesterday, and so we're collecting, we've orientated all the Government of Guam agencies and then also individual assistants. And then from there, there's a July 30th deadline for everyone to submit their applications, and then once the applications are uploaded and submitted, and then we submit it to FEMA, and then in a matter of a week, maybe 2 weeks, we'll know if our application for post-damage assessment and individual assessment has been approved.
For BAVI?
Yes, ma'am.
But it was approved for Sinlaku?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you give out an individual assistance for Sinlaku?
No, ma'am. So individual assistance was not approved for,
Okay.
for BAVI. Neither was hazard mitigation. However, there's...
You mean for Sinlaku? Right?
Yes, yes. So the we were approved for PDA for Sinlaku, right? And then we were not approved for individual assistance or hazard mitigation for Sinlaku. However, there's an appeals process, and there's an intention to appeal that.
Okay. Maybe you can tell us about the hazard mitigation?
Yes, ma'am. So that involves things like shoreline damage, like what Mr. Director Ariola is talking about. And so the assessment involves a lot of pictures, a lot of documentation to demonstrate the damage that was caused by the natural disaster. And if it meets a certain threshold, and FEMA approves it, and then we would be considered for reimbursement at 75%
Okay, and what are we applying for? Is it for that Hagatna seawall?
Yes, ma'am.
What other hazards are we trying to get mitigation for?
I believe that's the majority of it, the seawall.
All right. So GDOE, can you just confirm again? You changed your number to, right now from 66 to a higher number? Can you repeat it again?
It was 66,000, and I had some late invoices come in, so 38,000 for the 500-gallon diesel tank with the trailer, and 12,000 for the communication devices. So the revised total is now 116,000.
Okay,
Thank you.
And the Guam Homeland Security, what you're paying for overtime, that's going to cover National Guard, or are they being paid from some other source? microphones.
Apologies, ma'am. So that would be paid out of the state active duty appropriation that they were given, the overtime for the GUÐHAN soldiers.
Okay, thank you. I guess I want to just know in general, the list that we received from BBMR, thank you for the list. It's more itemized as to what this money is going to go or where it's been requested to go, including behavioral health, public works, EPA, agriculture, parks and rec, police department. Almost all of these, except for maybe agriculture, are for overtime. But I don't see anything here to like repair or do things like that. Why is that? Am I just reading it wrong, or how do these things get repaired? Anyone? Everyone?
If there are any damages incurred, like a building, it got flooded and they needed to go in and fix the cause and make it better, the agencies are informed that they would have to take a look within their budget, get their price quotations put in through the requisition process to get that done. They are also told that they must keep all their receipts and submit via PA, the recovery office, for reimbursement if it's truly a disaster-related damage. So one of the things that we always tell our ESFs to bring back to their directors or to their property managers is, before an incident, take pictures. Know how your building looks like. Know what works and what doesn't work. And then when the incident occurs and there's a damage, take pictures. They need to be able to prove, in order for it to get reimbursed, that it was definitely attributed to the storm.
All right, so when you look at this list, does this mean there are no requests like that? Or it's not time yet to make those requests? Like for example, the Paseo. We're going to pay overtime for Parks and Rec, but I don't see anything here to repair anything down there.
Well, so currently the agencies have been doing, so first, directly after the storm on July 7th, the governor and her team went out and did a wind chill assessment, right? And this is so we can take a look at what the hazards are and then make it safe so that we can get people out to start clearing up debris. So that happened. Agencies were also informed using an application process to take a look at what damages they have and input that information. So all that information is gathered and it's compiled, and that's how it's submitted. So that's already being worked on. So it won't show up in this. It will show up in the joint application to the president to declare, if we meet the threshold, to declare a disaster, to declare Guam a disaster. Once that happens, once the disaster is declared, then FEMA can come out. That starts pushing out okay, now we are going to go out as a team and take a look at all these applications and verify the numbers and the damages.
In addition to that, ma'am, we also do a joint damage assessment with FEMA, and FEMA's still on the ground. They're going to be here for a long time. We still have a federal coordinating officer that is here, and she's also here to help us close documentation and paperwork for Super Typhoon Sinlaku. But she's also the federal coordinating officer for Super Typhoon BAVI. So we work in tandem with one another, and right now we're doing a joint damage assessment for Super Typhoon BAVI.
All right. And GDOE, we just received notice that you received some FEMA funding for that temporary Simon Sanchez complex. Is that because they submitted that mitigation application?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Byrne, there's a typhoon report submitted to the legislature. It's on the website, but the last one was submitted June 17 for Sinlaku, and it says there was a $20 million balance. So since June 17, has that been used for BAVI or was it used for Sinlaku? What was the balance, I guess, when BAVI hit? Or how do you work that?
May I refer that to Mr. Carlson, who submitted the report?
Sure.
I believe we have 17.9 from Sinlaku and the 8.1 from the October food stamp emergency that the legislature helped out with. So 17 is what we believe was available.
Available. And so is that going to be used for BAVI, you're saying?
No, that was for Silaku, and then I think it was stated earlier that we collectively agreed that there was only 8.
8 left?
Yeah.
Okay, but the June 17 report said 20 was left, so you spent from June 17 till...
Well, like I mentioned earlier, Senator, we made $10 million available to Public Works right before BAVI hit for the debris removal, so that takes that down.
Okay, to 7. All right, got it. So that 7 or 8 is going to be now used for BAVI? Like, is that...
Yeah, so what I was saying...
Is that all that was made available then?
Yeah, pretty much, because 4.7 went to the Mayor's Council, $250,000, $500,000 initially went to DOE for 2 schools, but Mr. Byrne corrected me because DOE now is saying it was 5 schools, so now that's $1.25 million. The only thing that we took, and then we made $619,000 available for state active duty.
What's the last thing?
State active duty, the Guard.
Oh, you're paying that?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you made it sound like that's being paid from some other source.
No. They're done. I think Mr. Duane has basically said his mission is concluded, but we had funding for it.
All right, so...
Like what I was trying to get to is when you take the 4.7 million to the mayor's, about 1.2 for the DOE, you really don't have much left for the recovery efforts that DOE and all these people on this list here had to incur for not only battening down the hatches, but then recovery and damage assessments.
All right. On the Sinlaco report, there's something for data management resources. Do you remember what type of service is that for?
I don't recall specifically. I just know what the company does. They provide a lot of services to DRT.
Yeah. So why would that be under this emergency?
I couldn't tell you right away,
Okay.
right after that.
If you could just let me know later. Thanks.
Sure.
All right. Then the rest of my questions are pretty much for DPW. Just so you're talking about using this money now. So your overtime's covered. This is to use money to actually make repairs. And you've stated that your priority is the temporary repair of the East Hagåtña and the Hagåtña wall. And what is your next priority? I read an article, August 2025, that said that the Army Corps was going to work on the design and the construction of the East Hagåtña portion, and that they were going to do a cost share of 11 million and 5 million. So we were only going to pay 5 to get that repaired. Is that still on course? Or?
Not that I am aware of. As I mentioned earlier, we've been working with Army Corps and EPA, BSP, but that particular project has not come to fruition yet. It might be a funding issue, but from where we stand, we're just waiting for the we have a temporary design, if you will. We have a draft design of what we want the seawall to look like, but we don't have a full design, and that just for East Hagåtña, and we don't have the full funding for that.
And that design you contracted to have made, or they made?
No, we had an initial design done by our contractors under federal highways. So they did a draft design, and we're sending that through the hoops, so to speak, to either get it fully funded so we can do the entire design of the seawall there. But even that's pending available funding.
All right. So did we pay for that design?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you remember how much?
It's part of our contract with the PMT, the program manager.
So you might not need the funding, like you said earlier, for the design, our A&E, or just maybe to upgrade it from one portion to the whole wall?
No, the design that we have in place right now is just, it's simply a draft design. It's conceptual in design, but it's not, it doesn't take it the full 9,000 linear feet.
All right. Can you just send that to us also after this, the contract that you incurred to get that design?
It would be a task order, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
then that. I just want to see what the scope
Sure.
was. All right. And then,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
so are you planning any other priorities? Like this money that we're going to give you through this bill, would it go to, you're saying, temporary wall fix, filling in the holes? And then what? Is it Malesso? Is it going to be?
It would be primarily East Agana, West Agana, and the port with flowable fill. We really need to do that soonest. And then, of course, the debris removal, island-wide from all the different mayor's offices, from Oka Point and from Tizan. But that wall, I need to stress again, we need to temporarily stabilize that wall with the boulders that are currently there and solidify it with flowable fill concrete.
All right. What is the condition of the East Agana, not the sea area, but now the cliff, the one that had the landslide? Is that stable now, or are we still having landslides whenever we have these?
It's stable for now in that there has been no more degradation of the landslide. I believe there is supposed to be a hearing on that. EPA is supposed to have a hearing on that with the owners of the development that's up on top. So that's the current status of it. But is it still, it's vulnerable, according to our engineers. It's vulnerable from additional rain. It's vulnerable from perhaps earthquakes. But clearly, though, that landslide has to be mitigated. That has to be strengthened to make sure the entire cliffside doesn't come down.
All right. So, are you planning to submit for FEMA some mitigation measures? What are your priorities for those?
For the landslide, or
I'm asking your your priority list for all mitigation for Guam.
Okay, it would be the East Agana wall, the West Agana wall, the port, Cabras. I think we have a project down in Nimitz Beach. We have a project at Polaris to mitigate Polaris. We have the Barcenas area down in Malesso. Finilly, there's a Finilly Road, right, in Agate. The RR Cruz subdivision has some major flooding issues also. In UNAPPROPRIATED, we have there's a river embankment erosion issue that we just fixed, and probably Pago Bay, and that's just to name a few. There's quite a number of flooding and erosion and landslide issues throughout the island based on Mawar, Sinlaku, BAVI, and just the amount of rain that's been falling down.
All right. Were those submitted prior, and did we get approval for any FEMA mitigation on any of those spots?
Not for the Sinlaco just yet. I mean, they just approved, and that's why FEMA's on the ground, and they'll be going out and working with the different agencies to review their applications. So
So
that's
they're
that
only
process.
doing the review for Sinlaco now.
Now, Mawar
I see.
has been ongoing,
Oh.
and so I do recall that Mr. Cabana was saying that they have been working with the different agencies and mayor's office to make sure that they have all their documentations in line so that they can receive reimbursements.
All right. So it's strange that none of those were covered as mitigation projects after Mawar, right? Because they would have been an issue then
if they
also.
submitted, if the agency submitted a hazard mitigation application, it would be under review with the hazard mitigation group and the state hazard mitigation officer.
All right. So all this overtime that we're trying to pay has not been covered by the funds that were made available?
Which overtime are you referring to?
Well, the list, it's like this is the justification for the 13 million. It's for overtime. And So this has not been paid yet?
No. If there's no funds, it's not been paid, right?
Okay, and then that's interesting. But what about, all right, maybe one more again for the Guard. Were there requests for the Guard to be assisting in Saipan? Was that denied, or were there no requests?
That request would have to come from through the EMAC process or the emergency manager from the CNMI. There was no request as far as I'm tracking for the Guard. However, we remained prepared to support in the event that we needed to support, and we've been in contact with our Homeland Security advisor. I did have a discussion saying that the Guard, if there is a request from the CNMI, that we would be ready.
All right, and then for the mayors, the money was transferred to the individual mayors' accounts. You said some by electronic transfer, some by checks handed to these mayors. And I understand why you want that back to be just, they're going to get the money, but it's going to be through central accounting and reporting. Does the Mayor's Council buying any resources, for example, backhoes to keep for central, for, to share use, or every individual mayor has to get their own stuff? And why would some mayors support that they're going to get that money and bypass the central accounting system? Is that because of endorsements for the election, or what?
That's a good one. But the truth is this, right? So the council, I can answer this. The council, in receiving emergency funds for Senlaku and BAVI, the mayors have been very adamant about buying or purchasing heavy equipment. We've been doing so. So rest assured that we have been purchasing heavy equipment for the villages. We also have rentals. We have a purchase order, which is a contractual services that we have annually for equipment rentals. So we're prepared for typhoons or any type of disaster that we have. Now, the challenge is we don't have much vendors that have that, the equipment that's needed. Yes. So this is why the mayors are opting to now purchase, which we will do so if the money is available and we follow what the law allows us to do.
All right. Is there more that the mayors need? That was we jumped from 100,000 in Senlaku to each mayor to 250,000. So was that enough? Was that too much? Was that too little?
So the bump from 100 to 250 was actually a good amount to prepare and to recover. And of course, when you're talking about purchasing heavy equipment, some of these items actually cost about half of that and more. So certainly when you're asking if any mayor needs more, they're going to tell you yes. And it's because we have been able to purchase heavy equipment for several villages, and everyone is seeing how that works better for them. To answer your question, if we had any central equipment, we did consider that in a previous budget, where the admin office would purchase equipment, and that it would be like a motor pool, and we would share it among the villages. And so, of course, there's politics in that.
Oh, politics?
So, yeah, who's going to get it first, right? Village A or Village B? And so it ended up being, that we preferred that every village purchase their own. Of course, our issue is maintenance and repair for these equipments. And so, of course, that's what the executive director is working on for everyone that currently has equipment. And that's the other reason why we're asking if we could keep that 1.8, or if we can get the 1.8 from Senlaku, those mayors that need it the most could actually purchase the heavy equipment for their villages. And that would certainly be one use of that money.
All right. It sounds like the mayor's use of the money is the only use in BAVI that was not for overtime, or that's not being requested for overtime, and it's actually being used for equipment or supplies.
It's covered. So what they did not do, or we're assuming they didn't do, is they did not pay us out. The check was not written, did not include the overtime that was allotted for each village. So we could still pay overtime.
Is what we understand. is what we understand. Now, again, Senator, this is, again, with no communication. So we're going in blind again, and we're hoping the numbers we have matches the numbers with DOA. If the communication was had on the onset, we probably would be able to provide answers not only to you, but to even our mayors.
Yeah, so it's not clear when the checks are dispersed the way they were, whether those mayors are going to pay the overtime or they're going to leave that for you or DOA or who.
So again, Senator, that was just in an email from one accountant to the other accountant, and we don't know what those figures are.
All right. Can I just ask, has any of the money from SINLACO been used to pay for like generators that are going to be put at the water pump stations so that we're going to not have water outages as long as we did? Or is any of the money from BAVI going to be able to be put for those kind of uses, particularly generators for these critical needs?
It's my understanding, Senator, that that would be the responsibility of GWA.
Yes, but you also get a briefing of whether they actually have it or they don't, and if they don't, are we just going to sit and wait for water for days and weeks?
Test. So Senator, yes, generators, the FEMA generators are available. However, well, we have to work with the local economy first, and if agencies needed generators, they would have to submit a DLAN ticket. And I know sometimes, you know, I guess for those in the room who don't know what a DLAN ticket, it just stands for disaster land. And that's a database system where we keep track of every single request that comes from every single agency, because that request is attached to a dollar figure. And we have to justify why we would why we would provide a generator for maybe Homeland. If our generator had broken down and we needed a generator to run operations, we would have to submit a DLAN ticket. Or, for example, like in this past storm, our generator had some mechanical issues post-typhoon, but FEMA was working out of our office, and so we had the benefit of FEMA working in our building, and so we had a FEMA generator that was hooked up so that we continue operations.
Have you received that question? That seems to me the #1 question from after these 2 storms. Like, why did it take so long for the water to get back up in so many villages?
We've heard the question, and we defer the question back to Guam Waterworks. It is their system, and they are aware of their ongoing project to either replace or put in a new generator. So I would defer back to that, but that question has come up many times.
All right, what if you guys do your briefing right before the storm comes, and that you ask them, are you ready? And they always say, yes, we're ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you hold them accountable if there actually are no generators at those pumps? And do you say, we've got these FEMA, let's get these out there right now so that we don't have these water outages? Or you just don't, hands off completely?
No, we have our briefings, ma'am, and yes, before the storm, there's always starts out with a heavy weather brief, and it starts out with the governor calling all of the critical infrastructures and operations team together. And she and the lieutenant governor and the chief of staff give us, what the expectations are. What are our objectives and priorities for should the storm come? And power, water, communication, hospital are always the top, right? And DPW. So no, we have a representative from water, and we ask them straight questions. I do, the governor does. And if the governor or lieutenant governor hears a response that does not sit well with them, then she does call them to task. And she even asks other agencies to, let's help out. This is one island, let's help each other out if that's what it's gonna take to get water restored ASAP.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Our alarm is not working.
Okay,
so.
thank you all,
Yeah,
and look forward to round 2.
Thank you very much, Senator. We've been generous with the 10 minutes, so we're doing good. Senator Perez, you're recognized at this time.
Yes, thank you. I just want to clarify this disbursement issue. And so maybe if you can clarify this, Director Byrne, who are the certifying officers within the government of Guam that handles emergency response? In particular, BAVI and SINLACO. Is there a list of certifying officers that you have?
Each agency has a certifying officer.
Okay, and then as far as dispersing officer, are they different?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there is a dispersing officer.
There isn't?
No,
According to our
that's
laws.
what DOA does.
Yeah, according to our laws, they're two different things.
Yeah.
So there's no separation between a dispersing and certifying officer.
No, I think that term has fallen into disrepair.
Okay. And how many of those? So every agency has one or multiple?
Multiple.
Okay.
It depends on the size of the agency, obviously, Senator, but some of the larger agencies have multiple certifying officers.
And is there a file that DOA has of
Yes,
all
ma'am.
the listing of those?
Yes.
In addition to the delegates, who's delegated authority? Because they can delegate, can they delegate that authority?
Occasionally we get requests if an ASO is known to be absent for one reason or other. We get a request from an agency to have that authority delegated.
Okay, can we be provided with that listing?
Yes, it's a series of, we get from each agency a sheet, but we'll certainly be able to give you those sheets.
Okay, and so I guess that goes back to the question with the Mayor's Council. I know, Joy Jean, you were mentioning that the funding, there was an issue with the funding in regards to disbursement. Can you just reiterate what you said earlier and how that is an issue with the, the emergency response here?
Sure, Senator. So the concern here that I have is we've had several what we would call requisitions that have been submitted, roughly over 202. And those requisitions or requests have been certified, meaning the money's there, it's good to go, it's accounted for, and this is the goods and the purchases that we are going to buy under the emergency fund, BAVI. Now, because we don't share the same FMIS or GFMIS system with DOA, when they told the council through email that on Friday at 2:38 to be exact, that the remaining balances on the accounts were going to be remitted back to the mayors, and then in 30 minutes said the mayors can all come and pick up their checks, with the exception of one village which was automatically deposited into his account. My concern is we have outstanding purchase orders. So it is very, very, very dangerous to, it's very irresponsible for us to do that, because we have vendors that we obligated or committed to. We've probably picked up several of the goods or received the services, and if we can't make good on those payments, then we're really in trouble. And that's a major problem for me.
What villages were affected?
I mean, we have 19 villages.
So all of them? All of the villages? Okay. And so the certifying officer was you, and then
So I have a certifying officer, which is my accountant, and then I'm the procurement officer. I'm the head of the agency that signs these contracts.
Okay. And so basically, because you didn't have access to the FMIS system, you were basing your, the certification was based on the information coming from DOA?
Our certification is based on our accounting system that we have at the council. So we kind of, if you're going to do a drastic move like that, one would think if you're responsible enough to come and meet with the council so our balances match, because we don't see the system you have in that case. So it's just like this, Senator. When you have a checking account, you write your check. The bank, your balance at the bank may not be the same as your own general ledger at the moment, but you already know you spent that money.
Senator, could I clarify some of the things that were said? Since we seem to be getting down to a significant amount of detail on this, right? There is a difference between the two acts that were passed by the body. The act that relates to BAVI has a section 2 that says, MAGA'HAGÂ shall make disbursements herein in the following order. First to the mayoral offices, second to the Mayor's Council of Guam, and third to each Guam Department of Education school activated as shelter. And then it goes on to say what happens to the unused funds. DOA attempted to follow that. I don't know why the Mayor's Council doesn't have access to the FMIS system. I believe they do. And in that system, there are some POs. And those POs were deducted, the value of those POs plus the expenditures was deducted from the amount remitted. So those POs are encumbrances that can be honored when the invoices come in. However, even following this, if the mayors wish to do it otherwise, we will accommodate the mayors otherwise, but we have to have the information too. And I don't, the Mayor's Council mentioned something about overtime. That's news to me.
So, I mean, how quickly can this be resolved? Because
we can resolve
in the next hour or so.
We can resolve it today.
Okay. All right.
Senator Perez, may I ask a question? May I ask you a question?
No, I think it's, okay. Maybe you can make a comment in a form of a question.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I think my comment is, what's the law? What does the law allow? Because these are appropriated funds. Is it allowable? Can you deposit them into a non-appropriated funds account? And I get what we're talking about, but at the same time, in the middle of a process, just stopping the accounts and writing a balance I think is an issue. So I think it's about the law. And if the law does not allow this, then I think it is DOA's responsibility to retract the checks and redeposit them into our object classes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that comment. I mean, I think this will be resolved hopefully. To me, the idea that the funds are withdrawn, I think that's the big issue too. Because anyway. So I hope that could be resolved very quickly. Let's see. What other questions do I have? So I just want to go back to the SINLACU report in June. And the information that's given is different than what's being stated, or the information on that report is different from what has been provided by Lester Carlson. Maybe you can explain, is he here? Where is he?
Lester, you're being summoned. That was a long water break, sir.
Question for me from Senator.
Okay, yes, thank you. So I'm just looking at the different documents here. So the executive order for SINLACU was for 30 days, it states here, as provided by emergency procurement law, which is 5215. But if you look at the law, it actually gives 90 days. And so I guess the question I have is, what were you working off? Were you working off the 30 days or the 90 days?
For the Mayor's Council?
No, for SINLACU, the executive order.
Yeah.
It was for 30 days. It said 30 days as provided by Section 52115 of the Procurement Code. So basically, there's a conflict there because the Procurement Code states for 90 days. And so what were you working off? Were you working off the 30 days or the 90 days?
For the $250,000 that the executive order provides, almost exclusively that money goes to Homeland, nobody else. So it gives the Homeland the ability to react, respond. And then the executive order gives DPW, Procurement Authority, and a couple other provisions. It's meant just to be a guide for pre-storm, after storm, but then when the public law comes in, the public law actually, in my opinion, prevails. And if the public law makes money available until fully expended, which is what I believe the SELACU money verbiage says, with a requirement for the Mayor's Council to provide reports every 30 days. If I'm not mistaken, it says until fully expended. I hope my memory serves me right, Senator.
Okay, so but as far as engaging new expenditures, that's the thing I'm trying to get at. So, you know, once you send in your POs for within those 90 days, it should be within. So you're saying the law trumps what was stated in the executive order for 30 days?
The 30 days is really just for the executive branch agencies to be able to respond. It directs actions of DPW. It sets the tone for how we're going to respond. Any appropriations from the legislature are more detailed and certainly a greater funding amount. And it's, you know, like what we did for SELACU was a great thing, you know, pre-landfall $25 million. And thankfully we had that money because we needed it. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we believe that $8 million was still available to make available to BAVI, but none of that money was for what Mr. Areola and Ms. Ibanez have to do with DPW and cleanup. So that's one of the reasons why we're here.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, you know, with the Mayor's Council, if it applies, if you're saying the 90 days applies, then shouldn't it apply to the Mayor's Council as well?
I believe so.
So then they can use that 1.8 million. They should be provided that.
I think so.
Okay. So this is for Esther. So you said, or maybe it was Lucia, I forget who stated this, but the scaling down. So you're in a period of scaling down with BAVI. And I guess, how much do you project that we're going to be spending in this scaling down phase? And do you coordinate with all the agencies within the government?
So the question that I'm hearing is, are we working with the ESFs that represent the government in terms of scaling down? So earlier, I believe it was Senator Sean Matata who had asked what's our status in the EOC and if we started scaling down. And that's what we were talking about. So in the Emergency Operations Center, we have the emergency support functions from different agencies like DPW, Department of Agriculture, GPD, GFD. If there are open D-line tickets or there's an open mission, and which we have that mission right now, are the two Tier 2 shelters, we remain activated. The Emergency Operations Center remains activated. If there are agencies that do not support the Tier 2 shelters, say for example, GVB, we scale them down. You no longer need to report to the EOC. But if you have busing, feeding, shelter, security, then there must be an open ticket. You must still be in the Emergency Operations Center. Now, I'm going to caveat that some directors have requested that their ESFs not be in the Emergency Operations Centers because they have other or ongoing projects. If that is allowed by the TCO, it is the expectation that that ESF will work remotely, meaning they have to go into DLAN and make sure that if there are any new requests that they address it. So we scaled down from 24 initial activation at Core 2 down to 3.
Okay, and so we're seeing this list of overtime. Was this part of your coordination? Were you involved in this at all?
Yes, so the overtime, one of the criteria that BBMR has is whenever there's an activation, we have to put together an overtime plan. And for the Emergency Operations Center, we take care of the ESFs working in the Emergency Operations Center and the staff of Civil Defense, Homeland Security Civil Defense. So that overtime plan encompasses just that group. Now, if there are agencies who have employees working outside of the EOC, say for example DPW, they submit their overtime requests, with their amounts, and that's handled in a different area.
Okay. Is there any intention to get reimbursed from FEMA with this overtime cost?
Once there's a presidential declaration that is signed and we are assigned a number, it is the intention of, I believe, every agency, but most especially Civil Defense, to go back and seek reimbursement, which is why we are very meticulous in terms of the timesheets and signing in. So the question earlier that was posed by Senator Barnett over to DOE, we follow DOA's rules and regulations as to when overtime is covered, what type of pay is covered at Core 2, what type of pay is covered at Core 1, and what type of pay is covered at Core 4. All that makes a difference. And we actually certify the ESFs that are in there. We look at their timesheets, we look at the sign-in sheets, and we make sure that it matches. And in the job description, it does identify their role and their responsibility, so that when there is time, when their presidential declaration is done, and FEMA comes over and says, Civil Defense, how much did you spend on personnel? And we say, sir, we spent 1.5 million. They say, can you justify it? Yes, sir, here it is. And we did this exercise already with SENLACO, so we know, Civil Defense side knows that we stand a very good chance of getting our reimbursements for overtime.
Okay, so we already know what documentation to provide, because that was one of the issues, I believe.
Right.
So
no,
we were able to correct that.
Yes, we've corrected that.
Okay. Have you had a chance to look at their documentation on this listing here? The list that was just provided today?
By Director Carlson?
Yes.
This looks like they're agencies outside of the EOC, so I haven't looked at that. I don't have purview over that.
But maybe I can ask Lester Carlson then. Is there any intention to get reimbursed from FEMA for the overtime?
The agencies can.
Yeah, we're always, as relayed by Ms. Lucy and Ms. Esther, we're in that process now where the agencies are going to be looking for submitting applications for FEMA assistance. And as they mentioned, that process is supposed to close at the end of the month. So it's always been our objective to be able to get any federal reimbursement that is possible.
Okay, so my question then is, do you know what documentation, or do the agencies know what documentation is needed? Because we had those question costs.
Yeah,
was it clearly stated to these agencies what documentation should be provided?
Ma'am, the question cost had nothing to do with the agencies. Nothing.
Well, the question cost was
providing
appropriate documentation. So I'm just want to dot my I's and cross my T's here to ensure that we don't fall into that same predicament where we couldn't provide the documentation and therefore we weren't reimbursed. That's just why I'm questioning this. It's nothing to get defensive about. I just want to make sure that we have the proper documentation.
No, I'm not getting defensive. The agencies who receive FEMA assistance, they were good. The agency, unfortunately, that was leading the charge is the one who had question costs. So they're two different recipients. One had their grants pulled. That's how come we're entertaining funding in the FY27 budget.
Okay, that's good to know then, if they have the proper documentation. Okay.
So, Senator, there are ongoing briefings that the Guam Recovery Office is having with the different government agencies. And so that is one of the things that they inform the partners in terms of documentation and what is required.
Okay. In regards to the debris cost, how did we arrive at the $5 million? How was that arrived? Because I noticed, normally shouldn't you have a cost contract in advance? Or how is it that we are paying for something that there's no estimated cost here?
Ma'am, Mr. Arreola said they're going to be closing the sites tonight. Everything that we do here is based upon a projection. Our budgets are based upon projections for the revenue for the fiscal year and the operations of the government. What we're doing here is we're asking and we're projecting what it is that we believe the costs will be for certain response activities. We don't have that information. Mr. Arreola doesn't have a final tally of what the green waste sites are and the construction waste sites are, and they normally ask for quotations by cubic yard, not by daily rate. So he hasn't even gotten the quotes yet because the sites are still receiving waste. But we're looking to see whether or not we could get $5 million. Again, we believe that that amount is in the, as Mr. Arreola said, in the ballpark for what we think the costs are going to be.
Yeah, but I thought I saw a listing here. It stated that, yeah, isn't there like a, what is it, a cost estimate, or at least there should have been some sort of costing of this.
Public Works, do you have a cost estimate on green waste disposal? Or maybe an example of Sinlaku?
Who's asking the question? I'm sorry.
Senator Perez is trying to figure out how we have an arbitrary number.
Yeah, so I'm looking, sorry, Director Arreola. Yeah, I'm looking at the presentation you have before us, and you have, you know, different, on page, I forget what page that is, but you don't have page numbers. It's the one about emergency purchase orders. You have expenditures encumbered pending and total. And I'm just wondering how you arrived at a cost when there's nothing listed here.
Which amount are you referring to?
So it was stated by Mr. Carlson about the estimate for debris removal, but in your presentation, there isn't anything here. And how do you determine the cost?
How did we estimate the cost?
Estimate or determine, yes.
As we mentioned earlier, we basically did market research. We contacted companies that are in the business of recycling either green waste, white goods, construction debris, electronic, so on and so forth. And we received quotes for their processing of those different items. Based on those quotes, we used that and based on what we've collected, and we took those quotes and applied it versus what we've collected, and came up with some estimates, adding into it travel time, I believe 10 if not 15% for either additional debris or other factors that may impact you know, the removal of such waste, and that's how we came up with these some of the numbers.
What about the light vehicle parts? There's no estimate there.
For purchasing of light vehicle parts?
Yes.
Yes. During a lot of our emergencies, during a lot of our recovery work, we have vehicles going down all the time. I think in Sinlaku we had, I believe, our loader had one of its major tires go down. We had to take care of that. Backhoes, you know, because we're in the field. Who knows what's in the debris? It's not just wood. Sometimes there's rebars. Sometimes there's spikes in there. Our our vehicles are being used 10, if not 12 hours a day. So, you know, we're out there making sure that they continue to run.
Yeah, I understand the purpose, but I'm just wondering at the cost. There's no cost here, and what is your estimated cost?
It's to be determined because we still have to do an assessment. This is called preventive and avoid. We'll turn all of that.
Pardon? Okay. Yes, Senator. And so that's basically all inclusive of what we're requesting in terms of the $5 million for BAVI cleanup. It's not just processing the green waste, but it also what we have at DPW as part of our operations.
Okay, thanks. Director Byrne, to your knowledge, has there been any increase in pay during this time? Like what percentage of increase in pay to employees?
During which time, Senator?
During, you know, BAVI, Sinlaku. Has there been any increase in pay?
I don't remember the exact timing,
Okay.
but the governor approved an increase in pay to customs and quarantine.
Just to CQA?
Yes.
Okay. No other agencies?
No.
For GDOE, so I noticed in your listing you purchased, is it a purchase or rental for generators?
Purchase.
Okay. And you stated the mold mitigation, that's going to be a FEMA-related cost?
We are submitting that to FEMA. The money came out of an appropriation from the legislature, went to DOA, GSA to issue the contracts, and hopefully FEMA can help in the reimbursement.
Okay, I think those are my questions for now. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Montanani, you recognize.
Thank you. I don't want to drag this on, so I'll wait for the second round.
Thank you. Senator Bora, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think what I want to go over is, because I'm a little confused in regards to just kind of the asks. What I was expecting, at least when we came, was in regards to 13 million was kind of what the breakdown was. When we look at the numbers that were presented, like given before the lunch, and then we came back and you brought the spreadsheet, what your spreadsheet is saying is that you started with the 88 million less the appropriations against the excess, the special fund shortfalls, the proposed uses to include GIAA, FAA, childcare, and Simon Sanchez, which is where you came up with the 13.3, correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So, but then when we look at the request, based on like the GPDs, 500K, GDOEs, 116, the 3.2 for overtime, which includes the GPD, that based on expenses for BAVI, you're like, that's going to come out of the 13 mil. You get that, correct?
That's also correct.
So the 9 million is anticipated for FEMA. Is that what you guys are anticipating, that 9 million? So if the expenses amounted to 20 million after the assessments come in and the costs, does the 13 million change? Or if the assessments come in after everybody submits it and it's only 6 million, does the 13 million number change, or does it still stay the same based on what you've given us?
Senator, my understanding is that we are looking for funding to take care of the response. And as I mentioned before, what we loaded was what was available from Sinlaku. And we're making the case, or trying to make the case to you guys, that there were a lot of response activities that were not funded. And, again, what was done was very forward-thinking, and we appreciate it. It got the ball rolling, but as you can tell, particularly DPW with the waste removal, there is no funding for that. And, I think we can all agree it needs to get done. So when we got the SENLACU funding, as an example, it was $25 million, and we made that money available, but we didn't have any estimates. It was just, okay, let's start with $25 million, and thankfully we had funding left over that we felt comfortable to shift over to BAVI. So there isn't a way to be able to take pre-landing and have a crystal ball on what the costs are going to be. So that's why we're here today, because we're making the point that we do have recovery costs. And as Mr. Arreola said, all you got to do is, I said it too, go down Marine Drive, and you'll see unfinished recovery work. So we're just asking for the funding to be able to take care of the work that still needs to get done. The debris site's closed today. There's this FEMA, I don't know if it changed, but when I took a disaster course a long time ago, there's this way of estimating how many cubic yards a pile is, right? And so you can kind of get an idea once you've closed the site, how much debris and of what types you have. And Mr. Arreola is in agreement that a $5 million appropriation to take care of all the debris sites, to include the construction waste, would be appropriate. And, Senator, I got to remind everybody, this legislation was done pretty well because at the end of the day, whatever is unexpended goes back to the rainy day fund. So whatever it is at the end of, I don't know, another 60 days or so, while we work to get FEMA reimbursement for expenditures that we had, which is a work in progress. But once we're done, and whatever money is available, similar to what happened in October when we took care of the food stamp funding, there was money left. And we used that money for SENLACU. So I hope everybody is comfortable with the fact that we're being as transparent as humanly possible. And some people are looking at reports that are a little dated, and things have changed since those last reports. But anything that remains unexpended, with the exception of the Mayor's Council, because the Mayor's Council SENLACU funding specifically says that it's available until it's fully expended. But everything else doesn't have that kind of language attached to it.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to make sure is, because of course, when we look at the 13 million, right, you got the 116 if we gave that to GDOE, the 529 for GPD, and then the 3.3 million for EPA Public Works, GIBWIC, Agriculture. That will leave about 9 million, right? And so if we just gave you the 3.6 to pay all the ask of today, maybe if we add the 5 million, the estimated for the debris, right? That would leave about 4 million left. So if we just gave you the 13 minus, or we gave you 13 less 4 million, because really based on what you're asking, or based on what everybody has said, we would need 8.6 million.
Yes.
And so if we gave you 8.6 million, that would at least satisfy all the agencies that are here today. Which is why I'm trying to understand what other things can pop up, so that if we didn't give you the full 13 million, then what are we leaving out? Is what I'm trying to put. And I get it. Like something can come up, but so can other things, right? And I just want to make sure that we're not. Is there anything outside of what everybody has shared?
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that, because after lunch, we got an overtime request from Public Health. That's 67,000. And I would ask you to remember the stated 1.5 million for the Homeland activity. So we're at 3,087,000 plus 1.5 million plus 5 plus my number, including Public Health, sir, is $3,087,796.34. That's including the 67,000 that came in after lunch.
Okay.
And then you add the 1.5 Mr. Gabbana talked about, and the 5 million for the waste removal. You add that, like you said, we're around 9 million. And Mr. Byrne and I don't believe that we're going to be getting much more overtime. We're kind of like done. The only entity I think that really needs funding for the final cleanup is DPW for whatever they're doing on Marine Drive, and then taking care of the waste sites.
Okay.
You agree with that, Vince?
GDOE, so how much, can you confirm again how much you have received from DOA for the typhoon
As
appropriation?
of a couple of days ago, 500,000.
Mr. Byrne, do you know when they'll get do you need the remaining
Yes.
ASAP, correct? When do you think they'll be able to get the...
As soon as they ask for it. And I think we were actually waiting for them to ask for it because we need to confirm the number of schools.
Dr. Wombat, did you not ask for it because you told me?
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Yes, I'm definitely asking you if you can remit the $750,000 for 5 schools.
Consider it asked.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne. Thank you, Dr. Wombat. I think that's it for me, Mr. Chair. A lot of the other things that I had questions about the other senators before me had asked. So thank you again for everybody coming down here. Dr. Wombat, hopefully you get that very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bora, for getting their balance of $750,000. Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think my question was answered there, but I just want to be assured again. So let me just reiterate my question. So to DOE, to Speaker Wompat, Superintendent Wompat, the bill that, or the amendment actually, that gave $250,000 to DOE for the shelters. That's $250,000 times 5 shelters. Is that correct? So that's
Yes.
okay.
That'd be
$1.25 million. Okay, I know because actually we work closely on that amendment alongside, of course, the chairman of education. It was my amendment that put it in there to give you guys $1.2 million for the shelters, and if the schools, the campuses, were to be used as shelters, that the schools, you guys absorb the cost of everything relating to sheltering people, right? Utilities, cleanup, repairs, and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, because in the past we've never received any type of appropriation, and so we always had to use our school allotments and the supplies from each one of the schools. So learning from, since our term, we went through Sinlaco, and we saw what needed to be done because we actually, the management, signed up for shelter managers so that we'll know what our people are going through, what we need, and all the things that we saw that we didn't have at Sinlaco. What we did now with this appropriation is that we were able to go out and procure some of this equipment. We were able to get all the supplies, all the cleaning, the chemicals that we're going to need for afterwards to clean the place as well. So all of the monies that we have, we've been using to prepare, of course, to procure and to harden our facilities. So most definitely the monies that we have received, and granted we haven't gotten yet the balance, but it definitely would all go towards at the end of hardening and repairing our schools.
The reason why I'm asking that, because I'm really bothered about this, because we took from the same pot, okay? So it's $250,000 times 5, again, shelters. That's 1.25 million, okay? It's the same pot. Earlier, we said, the mayor said they were written a check of $250,000 times 19 municipalities from the same pot. So when they ran, I mean, did they run out of checks after that? Because you only got basically 2 checks.
Yes, for 2 schools.
Yeah, and it was the same bill. And, you know, we always get on DOE before the opening of school, why aren't you guys ready? You know, we wanted to make sure that you guys are whole. And that's what the intent of this amendment, that we make you guys whole, make sure that, again, you know, and thank God that we didn't get the devastation that we thought we were going to get from BAVI. Thank God for that. But that being the case, we wanted to make sure that, you know, you secured your schools and you got them ready for opening day as well. So it's bothersome that you've only gotten half, or not even half of the appropriation. You have you got 500,000 of that, and you're a school, and you're a priority, and we constantly say you're a priority. So it's been, again, it's just bothersome that we did this for that reason. So I'm glad that I want to get Mr. Burns on record that the $750,000 will be transferred to DOE.
Yes, sir, and according to Section 2, that's the third disbursement that should take place.
Okay, when would that be?
It's been asked for, so I will, as soon as I get back to the office, I will
okay,
start the process.
Can we recess and get you back to the office and have you send the
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I need them to get their money. Yeah, so, but we could wait. I guess we could wait until we recess for the day.
Senator Lujan, I think there's folks back at the office that can prepare the check for his signature.
Okay, got it. Just give him the thumbs up to prepare the check. But anyway, I'm good with that. But I just want to make sure that, again, this is to make them whole. And, you know, I was bothered by what I heard today, and I want to make sure they get the money. But thank you, Mr. Burns, for that, and thank you, Speaker Wampat, Superintendent, and Mr. Dongaro. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ed, text the staff. I'm sure they'll prepare the check.
I will. Please remember that the transfers are done for today, but we'll get it done tomorrow.
Good enough. So we'll finish the first round. But we got the ask done, so we're good. Senator Barnes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. I promise I'll be fast. I guess for DOE, from the shelteries perspective, I know that we had 5 shelters in place during the storm, right?
Yes.
And then how many shelters do we have open today?
None. The tier 2 shelters opened up. One is an OCP, and the other, which took about 200 of our shelteries, and the remaining 200 plus went to Estumbo Gym.
So, as far as resources for those 2 shelters, is the funding that has been provided to date suffice for those 2 shelters remaining to be open?
Are you talking about the tier 2 shelters?
Yes.
No, the monies that we received are for tier 1. And our tier 1, we opened 5 schools.
So, and then for tier 2?
Then that becomes the responsibility of the mayors in the village.
Even if it's still at the schools?
No, it's not at the school. It's
no, you're now saying it's at the mayor's?
Yes, tier 2 is at OCP, and the other is at Estumbo Gym.
So you're saying Ordit Chalampago Mayor's Office or Community Center?
Yes.
Right? And then the other one is Estumbo?
Gym.
Okay, so there's nothing in the schools
now.
No
more.
Thank you for that clarification. So maybe I'm going to ask the Mayor's Office that question as it relates to the funding sources needed for those 2 additional tiers, because you didn't have that before. Mr. President or Joy?
For Chalampago, no.
For Chalampago and Estumbo?
Correct.
Do you anticipate additional resources needed for
yes.
those 2 tiers?
Yes.
And is it actually delineated on what would be needed to continue the operations, and how many more days are you looking at?
So I wouldn't have the details as to what they will need, but American Red Cross typically is in charge of the services that they provide. If we're talking about the actual facilities, then yes, the mayors will need assistance for both facilities for upkeep, maintenance, repair.
Thank you. Maybe since you said that, I'm going to look at Homeland Security and see if there's any resources there. Please, Ms. Esther.
She always has a problem with her microphone. So, Senator, for the Tier 2 shelters, we have two entities that take care of them. So the first one is the American Red Cross. They manage the shelters. So they provide the services within either the mayor's office, like this one will be, or the community center for Order Chalampago, and for Dededo, it's the Estumbo Gym, so they work with the Dededo mayor. So they have those services. What Homeland Security Civil Defense takes care of is what is called the wraparound service. So we work hand in hand via a mass care task force, and we know what each entity requests for. So for example, when we close BAVI, you will see requisitions for porta potties, for a trash container, and for cleaning service of, say, certain areas, like the bathrooms, because everything else is considered part of the American Red Cross contract. So before anything happens in a Tier 2 shelter, the shelter manager or the American Red Cross representative will work with the established or the designated Tier 2 shelter owner, whether it be a mayor or whether it be whichever, right? And they will meet and agree on what services each party will cover.
So you talked about equipment and supplies. Would that include consumables like food and?
No, the American Red Cross handles the supplies and also the meals. So how they serve meals in the shelter is American Red Cross works with their nonprofit groups like Salvation Army, like World Kitchen. So for example, this morning at 7:30, Order Chalampago has 204 shelteries, and Estumbo Gym has 137 shelteries. And in terms of the number of meals that they've served already for each shelter, Order Chalampago, they have served approximately 673 meals. And for Estumbo, they have served approximately 452 meals. And these meals are your three basic: lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a snack in the morning, and a snack in the afternoon.
Oh, thank you very much for that insight news. Appreciate it. I'll go back to the mayors. I know that based on, I apologize, I wasn't here this morning, but I wanted to make sure that as we support the mayors, the checks, I guess it was just based on interpretation. One was each check was dispersed to the mayors, and then another one was to the mayor's council. So my take is, if the checks are returned from the mayors back to, I guess, Department of Administration, how long would it take for that to get back into the account of the mayors for the resources that you need for BAVI?
Instantly.
Instantly?
Yes.
So, and have all those checks that have been disseminated to every single mayor been returned back to you?
No, but we'll just cancel them.
You just canceled it?
We will just cancel them.
So if you just cancel that, when the anticipation date is immediately, so that is it already done?
No, I've been here, not at the office.
Okay. Just wanting to make sure that the resources is needed. So I just wanted to make sure for accounting purposes that because we realize that some of the mayors, especially the freshman mayors, don't probably have the expertise of accounting and facilitating the procurement process that's needed to move these resources along. So I just wanted to make sure that if there is an avenue that we could talk about today to make it happen, then it's going to happen. So.
Yes, frankly and surprisingly, it's easier for us if MCOG deals with the whole thing. It's just that that's not what the law said.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Senator Snogstein, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I was going to ask Mr. Burns that same question, reference to the money, because of the the exercise this morning is quite obvious. One is not communicating to the other. Hey, na parambino. You need to cancel the check, just cancel the check and send them the money. Because that was the intent when that bill was passed. The body understood that the council is going to manage the money for each mayor. The mayors will tell you, the council, what they want the $250,000 for, and you just process it. It's not for you to debate because we identified funding to give to the council to be able to do that job. Understood, right? Right, Mr. President and Mr. Byrne?
Okay, but that's not what the words say, but I understand.
We're not debating that. We're just telling you how the intent was, and just take care of it. Just cancel it and give them the money.
We will.
Okay, and I'd like to comment in reference to DOE, how the chairman of Department of Education says, we announced they needed everything. No. Madam Superintendent, you should have somebody in your staff type the letter, send it to them so that it is official. Sitting here in this committee of the whole is not the official way to do it, and you know that. You're a former speaker, okay? You know the program. Just process it correctly and be done with it. Because I know that
a direct payment request would be the appropriate way.
Got it. Okay. For Homeland, you talked about, was that DLAN, right? Has there ever been a submission by DOE to harden the schools for Typhoon to get some kind of federal assistance to harden the school and not just use general subsidy? Simple question. Yes or no? No?
Not to harden schools.
Okay. So for DOE, because I asked this many times when I was on the Board of Education, for DOE, and then obviously they never submitted to Civil Defense to request for federal subsidy to help DOE, because we shouldn't be using local money. When we're talking about Typhoon, you know this, Madam Superintendent, we should be using as much federal money as we can so that the local money can be used for other purposes. Okay, my next comment is in reference to the issue with, I know, Mr. Longuero, you talked about the law, yes, on the premium payment, overtime. But I have reservations on that. I understand where you're coming from, where the Typhoon went from condition 1 to 4 instantly. When it changes now at midnight, you don't just change the clock. You let the system fix itself first. And I'm saying, I think you need to ask the question before you take the action, because if premium overtime should be paid, no different from DPW, we still got folks out there working overtime to clean up Guam. We're still in recovery mode. Nothing changed. Sure, you work 8 to 5, but after that, now you're working overtime.
DPW's, sir, is, yes, they're still working. DOE is still working, but the rules for payment changed the same for DPW as it did for DOE.
Understood.
After Core 4 was called, and that's all we were saying. We're paying overtime in compliance with
Mr. Longuero, I'm not opening for a debate about what you interpret, because I know how to read just like you have, okay? I know how that's set. I'm just saying that when we give the funding from this body to cover the payment, we expect it to be executed, because I wouldn't like to see an employee that at 12 noon, I'm sorry, but your overtime, premium overtime ends, and we're going to go back to overtime, and they're like, we're still doing Typhoon related. I think it should have been reached out and says, how can we get maybe the AG to say, you can allow it at least until the end of the week, something like that. You know, just get some interpretation. Not just assume you read it, because everybody can read. But interpretation got to be made by maybe a legal officer to make sure it's covered, to take care of our employees. Let me move on to the next
Senator,
person.
can I respond to that for a moment, please?
Go for it. Superintendent.
Homeland Security had indicated earlier that with the presidential declaration, then now they would be able to pay or reimburse all of us for once we turn in our timesheets for overtime.
Yeah.
And if I heard correctly, is that there's a different amount for Core 1, Core 2, 3, and 4 on overtime. And if whatever it is that they're following for the federal side, then that's where I think that, I know with us, we were told by our timekeepers and payroll is that there's a difference in terms of the overtime payment, which is at the time when it is most hazardous to be out, and a different time after Core 2 has been declared.
Understood. But when you're in the shelter, it didn't change. When you're out on the street, like GPD and fire department, it's a different group of people. Same as DPW. When they're staging and they're out there, it's a different group of people. And if Homeland Security is going to say, this is what you must pay on condition 1, 2, 3, 4, so be it. But that needs to be communicated to the body, not just among yourselves, because where do you get your funding? In this body. That's where the authorization's at.
Senator,
when you start with that, then you can move on, because go for it.
I'm sorry, Senator, may I just clarify? Homeland Security does not dictate the type of Typhoon premium, Typhoon work, and overtime, Core 3, Core 2, Core 1. That comes from DOA payroll. We follow the established rules that is given to us.
Understood.
Now, in terms of FEMA, what they do is they will ask for a payroll register of all the employees, and they cover from the Typhoon. They don't cover the first 80 hours regular. They cover the overtime after that, as long as it's delineated. But again, we don't dictate when Core 2 Typhoon premium, when Core 1 Typhoon work, and when Core 4 comes in. That is a DOA payroll. We just follow the guidance. And yes, sir, I've questioned it. And I'm told we follow guidance until otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for stating that, because I just wanted, because they were stated by DOE, okay? And it's an error, okay? You clear that up. Reference to DPW, you talked about the East Agana, Port Authority, and you've identified other areas down south, correct?
Yes, sir. I identified a number of other areas. Nimitz Beach, Umatic.
Yeah, all the way down to Mauricio, Umatic and Mauricio.
Meleso, yes.
Okay. And I know you mentioned earlier you came up with a estimate, correct? I think you're, because it's for a temporary fix, am I correct?
Correct.
The temporary fix is very dangerous because temporary becomes permanent. And that's what I worry about, because you need it to be more permanent. You can do it today or tomorrow, but next week you need us make it more solid, correct?
It's not even, it can't be tomorrow. The temporary fix is just to stabilize the rocks, the broken seawall that's there, the degradation, if you will. It's just to stabilize it, because there's still people going on East Agana. There's still people going to the beach. There's still fishermen there. So we have to make it as stabilized as possible. Not hoping for another typhoon, of course, but then there's going to be the actual overall larger fix here, the big picture here, where as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at a complete design based on some of the conceptual designs that we've seen, working with Army Corps and a number of federal agencies and FEMA, and hopefully those that will be able to fund this project, because this is going to be way over our budget at DPW.
What would you estimate that amount may be to kind of prepare the island? Because we shouldn't have to wait. A typhoon's going to come. We all know that, okay?
Right.
Most of us have lived here more than 60 years old, and we all know typhoon will come. So we need to be prepared for it to come. It's going to come. So what would be the rough estimate you would think? Because, you know, we all need to understand, number one, every time we pass an appropriation, we say, until you justify the expense, you can use it, and if you don't justify, return the money. Okay? And I think that's happened on the last storm. I mean, not BAVI, but the last storm. Not all the money was spent. That's why we had, as Mr. Lester mentioned, we had like $8 million left. We moved it to this recent storm, and it's going to be no different. If this appropriation ever gets passed, it'll be no different.
Understand.
So what would you say would a rough estimate, another $10, $20 million?
I really don't have that number, Senator. I know even the initial numbers they're giving me just for flowable fill along east and west of Ganya and the port, they said $1 million. I was just doing the calculations here. That is woefully short. And that's
what was the amount you said?
$1 million.
$1 million.
Just for flowable fill. That is very, very short. I think we'd wipe that out in East of Ganya alone, because that's a 9,000 foot stretch of seawall that we need just to stabilize. That's all I'm saying. Just to stabilize. That's a lot of concrete we're going to need.
Yep. When you mentioned $1 million, I was like, $1 million? $1 million? You know what I mean? It's not going to go that far.
Understand.
Okay. Now, to the mayors, Mr. President, Mayor Alec, you mentioned earlier when they were discussing the BAVI appropriation, I think you mentioned you guys weren't consulted about if you needed money, correct? Okay. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Do you anticipate that you may need money to recover? Because that's what this money is for. Response and recover.
Do I expect what remaining funds?
Do you anticipate you may need funds for each village? Because I know the villages have not recovered yet. They're still doing a lot of work. And I know, and not unless you're going to say Petey's good, then okay, thank God. Go for it, Mayor.
No one's going to ever reject any money. And of course, you know, we're accountable for it. So yes, we could certainly use additional funds for each of the 19 villages.
So would you say then that maybe repeat the 250 per village, and then you justify it based on your expenditures?
You could certainly do that, but I would request that the expenditure deadline would be extended beyond September 30. If we're purchasing...
until fully expended would be the proper word then.
Well, then that would be necessary simply because heavy equipment, if it's not available on Guam, then it has to be special ordered, and it takes 60 to 90 days.
Okay.
So
yes.
Yes.
That's good. Now, the only thing I'm worried about is that certain villages need more than 250. You know where I'm leading to, because I'm from the north. Got bigger areas to cover, more homes to worry about, and so forth. So I'm just concerned about that, and I'm looking at the clock, trying to move along real quick. Lester, you mentioned on your one sheet, $3 million, and then it increased to what? What's the number you increased it to when you were talking with the oversight chair of education?
1 second, sir, because I have a revised tally for you.
Okay.
Are you sitting down? I got $3,087,000 for the sheet that I have in front of you. $5 million for DPW greenways, $1 million for DPW shoreline repairs, $1.5 million for Homeland Security overtime, and $866,000 for DOE. The DOE amount is $750 plus the $66,000 that they requested earlier. So now we're at $11,453.
So the total amount is what now? Other than $3 million is what now?
$11,453,796.
And this is all related to the recovery, response and recovery, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I need to know that.
Senator, could I just make a clarification? He mentioned the 66,000, but DOE edited that amount, and the total now is 116,000.
So add 50,000 on top of what I just said.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need a clarification real quick here.
Yes, go for it, Mr. Chairman.
Because you put 750 in here, but that's the balance of what they haven't received yet.
Correct.
didn't account for that yet.
But it's part of the appropriation in the current law.
So
You only gave them 500 and there's 750 left in the current law that they need.
let me consult with my CPA.
Yeah, that 750 is already in the current law. It's not a,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, he agrees with you, sir. So
Reduce that by 750.
there you go. So we're
Well,
still.
well, you know what? We can play with the reduce and stuff, but we haven't even identified the mayors for
Yeah.
full recovery.
Also, Senator, on that, just real quick, because we'll scrub this out. What I've talked to the Mayor's Council about is the problem that they have is there's a disagreement on the language. They're following the executive order. DOA continues to tell them that, and BBMR says they can expend. They want now explicit language so they can use the rest of the 1.8 million that they currently have from Sinlaku. Can you confirm that on the record, Joy Jean?
That is absolutely correct, Senator Dueñas.
So
Please
we're-
be clear on the expiration date for me.
So,
Are you,
so
but
we
are you
don't-
talking
so
about
right
the
now-
Sinlaku, not the BAVI?
Yes, Sinlaku, and then the BAVI situation is they're asking, which has already been granted, to recapture the 250 from each mayor's mayor's office and allow them to use the proper procurement process for the delivery. So I think we should just make sure as we're going forward, is the 1.8 million going to mean to them? And then see if they need additional beyond that in this current appropriation. But right now, they did not expend 1.8, and they discontinued distribution of those funds because they were strictly following the executive order, which I appreciate about them. But all we got to do is give them clarifying language when we finally pass this legislation so that they are clear and they can move forward on using the 1.8.
And you're correct. We need to make sure the bill that's passed is clear. Because we can talk all about executive orders we want, but what the law states is what you move on. The executive order can tell you no, go right. The law says you will go in whatever direction you need to do what you need to do. So I would be very careful how you read executive order and think that it's gospel. Because the appropriation comes from this building, not from anywhere else. The checks may come from them, but it originates here. And yes, there will be clarification, so you don't have to speak MCOG council. Okay, you're good. I just want to make sure we find ways to help you. Okay, we want to help every mayor. But we want to make sure also the villages that are largest gets the appropriate attention. Because I know the president knows that when you buy one backhoe for Deridu, it burns out faster than anything that you buy for another village. And then when you mention about maintenance, I think when the mayors request for an equipment, it shouldn't be the responsibility of the mayor's council to make sure there's maintenance, make sure that mayor puts it in his request. That's where you stop it there. And say, hey, where's the maintenance program for this? Now tell them, hey, we need to make, no. Now part of them, let the mayors do their village. That's not your job. You guys come together, let them know, and tell them to do it. It's within the 250,000. I got 6 seconds, and I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll wait for the next round.
Thank you, Senator. One more time also, when we did the oversight with Senator Gumatauto, also the administration, DOA, as well as from the front office, they had also closed it down. And they came and reported to us that there was the 10 million that was the balance. So that also had an effect of what the mayors were doing as well. I had so many texts like you had from other mayors asking, but it was also closed out by the executive as well. Vice Speaker Atta, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. Mr. Byrne, on the checks that were dispersed to the mayors, what was that total amount?
I don't have that in my head because it was a different amount to each mayor depending upon what they'd already spent. But at a guess, it was about 1.8, 1.9 million.
All right. So did you already communicate with your office to either stop payment on the checks or just cancel them out?
Yes, Senator Drainers asked me to text, and I did.
All right. So then that will be already immediately transferred back into the Mayor's Council for them to take control of it once again, right?
The accounting are dealing with that now.
All right. Mayor Alec, I know we talked a lot about heavy equipment and things like that. Are the purchase of backhoes and dump trucks or whatever they're getting, each mayor has an operator that is certified to operate these backhoes and things of such nature, right?
Yes, Vice Speaker. So whoever is purchasing has those certified operators, and that's why not every village actually has a piece of heavy equipment. And so those villages that don't have certified operators are renting.
Okay, that's good. Madam Director, those that don't have an accountant or ASO, are you helping them at each village mayor's office with their accounts or things of that nature? No.
Not with, if it's the appropriation, yes, but if it's NAF, no.
Okay, but only the appropriations.
Correct.
All right, so that when this funding goes back to the Mayor's Council, and you'll be able to know who already expended what funds they had and what remaining is going into each district's account?
We should be able to track it as we did at the beginning.
All right, and then also it would be able to use to pay off whatever contracts and purchase orders that you already had authorized, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now the Sinlaku part, that whatever was remaining from there, that will also, if the language remains to fully expend or whatever is remaining, then you'll be able to utilize that as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. So that's the 1.8 million remaining that we're tracking. Actually, it says in the law that the body had passed, it indicates the executive order. That's why we're following the 30 days, because it spells it out in the law that the body had passed.
All right, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the only, I just wanted to make sure we clarified that the funding is going to go back to, like DOA is canceling the checks, and that funding will go back to the Mayor's Council, and now all that will be straightened out.
Yes, and if others aren't, go ahead.
Just to clarify, sir, we have separate accounts, separate appropriation accounts for each village.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and if not already being done, we're also preparing an amendment to ensure that language is clear, that when this appropriation is completed, they will have access to the 1.8 from Sinlaku. Senator TYPHOON, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to the panel. Thank you so much for being here today. It's very nice to be able to ask questions directly to you. So let's start with Lester, Mr. Burns. The funding that's the $13,361,849 going to recovery efforts for Typhoon. Is any of this funding going to be considered just for BAVI, or we're still having issues with Sinlaku on expenses that are still being incurred from them? Is this a combination to use this funding for both typhoons?
No, we're making very diligent efforts to separate the two.
Okay, because if I'm not mistaken, even with FEMA, we have to be careful that we don't commingle a lot of these expenses, and to be able to measure what debris is coming from what typhoon in order to get any kind of reimbursement. I think that's important. And I'm hearing that the mayor's office, is that true, that you're ensuring that what is Sinlaku damage is separated from what is BAVI? Is that true?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and that's important. Marwa, if you look on the website, on the FEMA website, you can actually see how much money was presented to Guam for the recovery efforts there. I think it was close to $142 million in FEMA money that was given to Guam. And and that's, it took how many years before we received that money. So Esther, do you have a timeline in which we can start seeing some reimbursements from Sinlaku?
Thank you for that question, Senator. We just started, so it could be a matter of months. It could be a matter of more months. But we just started. You know, we're still seeing action with malware, even today, even though it happened 6 years ago. So sky's the limit. But we're tracking everything closely, ma'am.
Okay. In some of the reimbursements from Marwa, has that been back into the general fund? Have whatever you received from the federal government, from FEMA, is any of that money, you know, just a reimbursement because we forked out funding for Marwa and hoping to get reimbursed, kind of like the scenario here with Sunlaku and BAVI. If we fork out, of course, you know, we have the money now because FEMA is just doing their assessment. Are we going to get any kind of reimbursement? And was there reimbursement from, so it's a three-part question. Marwa, did we get any reimbursement from Marwa? Where was that money put in, or was it put back into the general fund? If not, just let me know. And then Sunlaku, the anticipated amount of reimbursement, as well as BAVI. Just a roundabout, yeah.
Sure. I want to be able to answer your question completely, and so I'm going to need some time to talk with the subject matter experts on your three-point question, unless Mr. Lester and Mr. Byrne can answer that.
Yeah, Mr. Byrne, did you receive any reimbursement for Marwa and placed back into the general fund that we don't know of, or did you already report it to the body of that funding being returned?
Not at this time.
So we received nothing?
No.
From Marwa?
Not that I'm aware, no.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so we know that this funding that we're anticipating from FEMA, whether it is reimbursable or not, it's going to take some time. You know, so whatever we can do right now and hope for the best. Esther, I know I spoke to the head individual that came from FEMA to find a faster process to get these reimbursements through when I came to visit you during the storm. So I'm hoping those things are implemented in place so we can start seeing some reimbursement as soon as we can. The anticipated, Mr. Byrne and Lester, the property taxes at $17,342,882 that have yet to be realized, and we're not anticipating in that until the end of December. Usually we would hope to have it by the end of the fiscal year. So when you have I kind of look at the two because GIAA is the amount that you're looking at is $17,654,625 that this bill is requesting for. How much of that is needed before the end of the fiscal year, and how much of that funding we can actually wait at least till the end of December of this year, so that, you know, the washout of the negative on the CR report of 17 million negative. Are you guys anticipating trying to juggle things around for that property tax?
Thanks for the question, Senator. The presentation that was made to the body by the Airport Authority, they are in pretty dire straits. They need the funding because they have a shortfall in the revenue that's actually been occurring for the last couple years. And only now, as a last resort, are they coming to the body for, I think it was described by the chairman as a bailout. And Senator Lujan also spoke very eloquently about what it was that was being entertained. So they need the money yesterday.
The full amount?
Yes, they need the full amount yesterday.
Okay, because I heard from another conversation we had that there's a certain amount was needed before the end of the fiscal year, and the remaining amount, like the tax. The reason why I bring this up is because of the fuel tax. The reason why I bring this up because you're giving us an end balance once we've funded the 13, and then of course you have this document here showing us after everything else is paid, we have $13,361,884 left over for the typhoon response and recovery. But we're using June CRER numbers. So we still have in June, July, August, September, we still have 3 more months. Are we anticipating this to be, the same amount by the end of the fiscal year, or are we anticipating any additional funding of excess revenue other than $88,630,898 as what we're working on these numbers? Are we anticipating any additional?
Senator, I don't have the crystal ball, but if you look at the last 3 years, you look at the last, this current fiscal year, every month, the amount that we've collected in the general fund continues to exceed our expectations. There doesn't seem to be a reason why we shouldn't garner a few $1 million more between now and the end of the fiscal year. I'm an optimist, but at the same time, you have to draw the line about what's prudent and what's not prudent. Right now, we're saying we have $88 million. Next month and the following month, maybe it is really the more prudent approach to wait and see. But right now, Mr. Byrne and I are very comfortable with presenting to you where it is that we believe we are and how we could fund the recovery efforts that we're seeking the body to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Byrne, you've always said that it's important to have a cushion at the end of a fiscal year. I think you and I have talked about this many times, about $30 million to have that cushion. But based on the request here and the tracking of the special funds along with the legislature, the $20 million that's also obligated to the hospital, we're looking at, from using 88 million, we're looking at a negative 2,12177. Is that correct? That's if we're taking care of BAVI, child care, GIAA, and then also going through the other expenses. I'm showing a negative 2,121,177. Is that true?
The sheet that we provided to you, ma'am?
Yep.
It equals. There's no deficit.
This one here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is I'm going down the list and total appropriations, balance after special fund, and then unused appropriation obligated GIA. So you're looking at 45. So that leaves 13, right? Is that right, Lester? Am I reading that correct? 13 million?
So this morning, the speaker asked how we came up with this rather unusual amount.
Right.
And so thankfully at lunch, I was able to get my staff to put this together to answer the question. So this is an exercise that's showing how we arrived at a very odd number of $13,361,849.
Okay, so in other words, we would be just zero at the end, correct? If we use that. We're not going to be in a negative. We're just going to not have any funding left over, correct? For like DISIT at 1.8 million that needs funding there. Some of the other agencies that we incorporated in the budget bill that need some funding. So there's no money there unless, like you said, too bad we don't have that crystal ball that we can see what the anticipated additional excess revenue on top of the June CRER report that's reporting out. So, yeah, I'm right on that. So when it comes to the mayor's office, I'd already put something together with regards to the additional. So would September 30th, 2026 be a date that you can at least finish out the total amount of funding that was appropriated to you for the typhoon?
Senator, that works. Of course, we did have a previous discussion about funds, having the funds until they're fully expended. That might also work better if we're, again, trying to purchase heavy equipment, simply because of the time frame of the ordering. So until fully expended is probably the best language, but we'll take September 30th if we have to.
Okay, so without a date would probably be better.
Correct.
Because I've been working with legal on putting an amendment together right now, and so we'll go ahead and consider that. That's
you.
all.
Thank you.
Okay. The other one is green waste for Department of Public Works. By leaving that green waste and not having the funding to remove it from certain areas, what are some of the possibilities of just having that green waste sit there if you don't have the funding? What could happen?
EPA would fine us.
Okay. Yeah.
They would cite us because we've got a permit
Right.
to operate that temporary debris management site that we signed, and there are certain conditions in that permit, and so
You would be fined.
yes, not just that, but
fire,
other,
yeah.
possibly something like that.
There could be fire hazards,
Fire
pests.
ants could
Fire
happen.
ants, yep,
Someone could
yep.
go there and
Okay.
light it up.
So
Things of
that's
that
really
nature.
important. You need to address that
Yes, ma'am.
right away. Mr. Director, appreciate that. And we'll push for that.
Appreciate it.
Marwa reimbursement. Property tax, green waste. Okay, first round. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Colleagues, we will recess until 0930 tomorrow for round 2. We are in recess.